Stamp duty, how does it fit together when you're buying your new house? Hi, I'm Kimberly Shapcott, qualified chartered accountant, property investor and entrepreneur. Let's sit down and have a chat. Stamp duty is quite a complex tax, and when you have more than one house in your own name, it can be quite confusing on whether or not you will have to pay the higher stamp duty rate, which is now at 5% in 2025. Obviously, that is quite a significant balance that you may have to pay on a new property purchase, especially if it is your main residence and you haven't budgeted for it, or if you have budgeted for it, it's still quite a large amount on the basis most of the time you're going to be buying a bigger house than the one you're probably living in at present. So that value is going to make a big impact if you have to pay it. So how does it work if you've already got rental property in your own name and you're now wanting to move main residence? Well, the first key question that we need to ask ourselves here is, what is going to be happening with your old house? Are you looking at keeping it, or are you looking at selling it? If you are looking at keeping that previous residence, then unfortunately you are going to be paying the higher rates of tax if you're going to be maintaining that in your own personal name. If you're going to be selling that main residence, then there is a condition D, which we need to have a look at today to explain what the position is in relation to whether you need to pay the higher rate of stamp duty. The general premise here is that you will not have to pay the higher rate of stamp duty as condition D, if eligible and if you fulfill the requirements, will enable you to not have to pay that higher rate of stamp duty if you are replacing your main residence. Now, condition D specifically states, as you can see on screen, that if at the end of the day of purchase, the purchaser owns or is treated as owning a major interest in two or more dwellings. Its purpose is to ensure that replacing a main dwelling in certain circumstances is not a higher rate transaction, even where the purchaser owns multiple dwellings. So on this basis, it's very much focused on if you've got more than one property, but you're actually replacing the one that you live in, the one that is your main residence, not selling a buy-to-let, not buying another buy-to-let, not buying a new main residence, but keeping your main residence. Is all about replacing that main residence. Now, if you have more than one main residence and you have a couple of houses that you do live in through the year, then there is more complications, and we're not going to cover those complications today because we'll have a very, very long video. But if you do want to know more about that side of things, then do leave a comment and we can add a further video on the channel. The key point of condition D, however, is that we are selling or removing the main residence that we have been living in previously before we are buying another one. So this can be on completion date that you sell one, you buy another. That is not a problem, but you have to, as of the day of completion, only have one property that will be your main residence. Now, obviously, from a planning point of view, you may think, I don't actually want to sell that other house, which is fine. However, there will be stamp duty consequences. The other option is you actually sell that property into your own company, if you have a company where you can put properties, which would then, again, you have sold it, it is no longer in your personal name, but it has gone into a company. Obviously, for that, there is stamp duty implications. There's probably no capital gains tax if you've been living up in the property up to that day since you bought it. However, you may just need to consider them. And you probably just need to look at the mortgage side of things to see how that will fit together. There will be legal fees on selling and buying a property into your own company. So again, you may just need to consider the legal fees. But if you go down that approach because you want to keep the property, then again, that is fine. That will meet condition D of the stamp duty. So you won't pay the additional 5% on the new main residence. But you do have to sell that property, whether it's to yourself in your company or it's to another individual or other enterprise. It should be noted that you don't actually have to sell the property. It may be if you're someone who's slightly older and you've got several properties, it could be that you actually gift that property to a child, a friend, someone you wanted to gift the property, and in the act of gifting the property, this is also removing it from your ownership, and obviously all the legal paperwork will be done so it is no longer in your name. As you can see, there are quite some quirks with this stamp duty legislation, and it's just a matter of making sure that you're ticking the box to move main residence. If you've got more than one property, it is a little more complicated, and you just need to take some care and get some advice to ensure that you are doing things in the right way. If you do find that you can't quite complete on something as you sell it, or if things don't quite fit together perfectly, it is not a problem. And if you do have to pay the additional stamp duty, you may just have a cash flow issue rather than anything else. As the cash flow, you'll have to pay the money out, but you can reclaim that money if you then move that property out of your ownership and no longer occupy it. This will allow you to go through the 3-year reclaim process, and check out the video on how that fits together to ensure that you are claiming within the right time period. Stamp duty can be quite a costly area of tax without realising it. So do just make sure you check what your stamp duty position will be on your main residence when you do start looking for a new property, so that there are no surprises when you come to go through the legal process to what you should be paying. Hopefully today you've discovered how stamp duty is going to work when you're buying a new main residence. If you have any questions, then please do leave a comment. Please like the video and do subscribe to the channel, and let's make tax less taxing. Let's make tax less taxing.